I was just doing it to do it.
And I'm getting mighty tired of your trifling ways and of listening to that jackass bray.
Welcome back. We got episode 9 lined up. Feel super excited to have my buddy Derek in the house today. I have been out of commission for the last couple weeks between getting people ready for competitions, some new developments with the building, getting my own training in, running around like a general madman. So I'm super excited to be able to have another guest in here and be able to talk to this guy and get him out here in front of you guys. So I want to start by welcoming my buddy Derek Nelson. How's it going, brother?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, brother. So Derek trains, if you guys watch the channel at all, you know, Gracie Palm Harbor is a friend of ours at Aetherial. Professor Tony, Coach Brittany, they're really dear friends of ours. And Derek actually trains over there. He's one of Tony's senior students. So that's how he and I kind of got on and started talking. So Dee, why don't you kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So since you brought up Jiu Jitsu and grappling, I'll give a little brief overview on that. Family moved down here from New York in end of July 2019. I was insistent on enrolling the children because I have 3 daughters, and I insist that they learn self-defense. I think it's vital. And so
I'm co-signing on that one officially, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of a non-negotiable. You know, and it's only going to serve them later in life. And
absolutely. What
ended up happening was I was down here before the family, and I started kind of looking around, and I really only went to one place, and that was Gracie Palm Harbor. And I met Tony. I don't know if he remembers meeting me on that fateful day. And then I showed up, you know, almost 2 months, about 6-7 weeks later. I was like, all right, hey, listen, kids want to try it out. So they did one class, they did another class, and I was like, I think I want to try this. So you know, we are a grappling family. Haven't gotten the wife in there yet, but we're working on it. But baby yeah, steps. All 3 of my girls, you know, all 3 of us train. We all compete. Sometimes we do better than other times, of course, but you know, we love it. You know, and more than anything, it's really like you. That's how you and I connected. So it's really a family and a community, and you know, you step on those mats, and it's like a brotherhood, and you know, it's really nothing better than what I'd rather be doing than to train, quite frankly. So so that's a backdrop on the jiu-jitsu. A little bit about me. As you heard, I'm a native New Yorker.
I couldn't tell.
Been trying to get the wife down here since about 2015, and I finally broke her in 2019. And yeah, so
hey, right on time if you ask me.
You know, yeah. I mean, literally 6 months before New York went into complete lockdown. So yeah, we're timing couldn't have been better.
Yeah, especially sure. Now, if you look at the market, you guys are about 2.5 years ahead of the curve. So good for you.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off though. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Not sure what else you want to know as far as.
Tell me a little bit more about your professional career, because so Derek and I, as I mentioned, we met on the mats training, beating each other up, doing jiu-jitsu like as we usually do. And as we became friends on social, I started noticing some of the stuff he was posting and how it kind of aligned with some of the values that we have at Aetherial. And Derek specifically, I noticed that you mentioned a lot about planning for financial future and taking care of your family. And if you could just kind of elaborate on your experience and what you kind of offer as far as that goes.
Yeah, sure. So basically what I did was I worked, I'm going back now, 1990, 94, 95. I got recruited into working in a boiler room. I don't know if it's a more common term now than it was then. But essentially what it was, if anybody's ever seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street, that's where I worked. I didn't really see the office parties that they portrayed in the movie, but it was pretty hardcore. And what ended up happening was I was doing nothing with my life at the time, and the guy across the street from me was killing it, so to speak, financially.
Right.
And it ended up being short-lived for everybody. But what was interesting was I was at this firm, and it was founders of the firm that had people that were at the firm Stratton Oakmont, which the movie's based on. The company does well. People branch off, they start their own little business. So I was at one of those branch off businesses. But I completely hated it. So what ended up happening was by 97, I actually got a job on the New York Stock Exchange, and I would spend over a decade down there. And, I really learned a lot about mutual funds, hedge funds, all these crazy institutional stuff that gets thrown around. When you talk about Wall Street, that's what everybody envisions. And I loved it down there. And unfortunately, we were, what would you say, ousted from technology. Technology did us in. People were getting laid off every day. So we were outsourced. And I struggled a little bit after that to find my way. And during that time, I had that window of time from 2007, 2008, not because of the economy, but because technology had taken over pretty much the only thing I know how to do. And so I was scrambling. I ended up, I was selling remodeling. I was doing some other things, which I guess in hindsight, it helped me get comfortable talking with strangers because I'm kind of introverted by nature. But we also got into a real financial pickle over a few years. And I'm talking, foreclosure and retirement accounts, like just a complete financial disaster. And so, it's circumstances throughout my life that prompted me to want to learn more about what I did wrong and how I cannot do wrong down the road. And from there, it evolved into, well, it worked for me. And, now I help people along those lines. So I'm a 2-time author. My latest book is Financial Peace in a Post-Pandemic World, which was published in October 2021. I guess it's pretty close to post-pandemic, so I'm not too far off on my timeline. But basically,
they just said no more masks on planes, so I think you're like right.
Yeah, there you go. We're close. But with that book, what it's about, and it's my whole philosophy at this point is, I talk about big government spending, why it's important for us to understand that the consequences of spending and the government's basically in the red on a lot of things. We call it unfunded liabilities. And what that means is they have bills they can't pay, right? So basically they have, any local government might have $100 billion in bills, but only 20 billion to cover those assets. So where are they finding that $80 billion? And this is going on a national level. And then I shrunk it down even more to, well, what about the average household? We have credit cards, we have this, we have that, we have our auto loans, we have our mortgages, we have all these bills. So how do we efficiently pay those down? One of the things that I was thinking about earlier was, because I'm, thinking about for my own video content, but I'll share it here. So basically, if we're at about 7% inflation, according to the government, it's actually much higher than that. But let's just use 7%. Now, if the average family is carrying, let's say about, 7,000-8,000 in credit cards, and their average interest rate is 15%, well, aren't they down 22% on that money that they have to pay back? And then if you have a down year in the market, well, you're behind now because, basically, if I have $100 today at 7% inflation, this time next year, it's only worth $93. So, just having money, having some cash on the side is a losing proposition. So what I do basically is I help people find the money, pay down their debts if they have them. Even if it's just a mortgage, we can be efficient with that. We can show you how to pay it off. But basically, let's get rid of those bills so we can maximize our savings. And I want to help people do that without having to alter their lifestyles and oftentimes without taking more money out of their pocket. So it doesn't hurt them to save more, because a lot of times when we're saving for the long term, we even though we're doing the right thing, it still feels like an expense. It's like, 300 or 400 is coming out every month. So it does feel like an expense, but if we're just redirecting where those monies go to, you're already used to that money not being there. So, it's just about shifting and redirecting, and there's some safe alternatives where, if the market's down 30, 40%, you're not going to participate in those losses. So, that's, I've created a financial foundation system. That's the name of my first book. And, that's what the principles are, get out of debt as fast as possible for the least amount of cost, so you can use those dollars and maximize your savings so you can have some financial peace of mind.
It's incredible, man. And a noble effort that you would take what some would consider a negative experience, but at the very least for you, a learning experience, and turn that into a platform to be able to reach and teach other people. I think is incredibly virtuous and noble, man. It's awesome. There's no better thing that you can do, in my opinion, coming from another teacher, is like benefit the people that are willing to listen from your shortcomings and your mistakes.
You need the help more than anything. So that's where I'm directing my attention to.
Those underserved markets are they're underserved, right? Like they need help, and again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. It's not just the dollars and cents, because you could have stayed in New York to do that bullshit, to be honest with you. Cost of living, average income's a lot higher there. So hitting that 500K mark is probably a lot easier there than in Palm Harbor. Maybe not a ton off, but you know what I'm talking about. The virtue, the altruistic nature of what you're going for is what's got you to this point. And that's, I think, what's going to bring people to you. This guy is here to help us, help our families. And yes, he's running a business. Obviously, he's a proprietor of his business. But the first priority is, this is what I went through. Here's how to not fall in the same well. I'm going to teach you how to do it the right way. Take care of me on the back end. Like, there's nothing but virtue there. And it's a very similar model to what I've got.
And the beautiful thing is I get paid from the carriers. It doesn't come out of the people's pockets. I mean, I guess indirectly it does, but
sure.
I mean, it's like they're not paying a fee. You know what I mean? Like some, advisors, they charge, $2,500 a year. Like I don't do that. If there's investments, obviously there's an annual fee for that. But my whole objective is just, I want to take people that are, 50, 60, 70,000 a year, for example. I want them to have peace of mind. That's all I want. And okay. I'll get paid along the way. I'm not worried about that. But if the more people I can hit to give peace of mind, I mean, that's why I wrote my book. I didn't expect my book to sell 1 million copies. In fact, I just created a campaign to give it away. Obviously I want to capture people and talk to more people, but I want my reach to grow, and that's why I'm doing it.
For being obviously not a traditional author, you came up in the financial sector.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw in your mind strategically the value of what you had to offer and put on paper, but explain to me the process of going from hedge fund Wall Street guy to author, and doing it with any type of quality.
Yeah, and when I wrote the second book, I wasn't going to do it. I was just like, I just got to do it. So I sat down and did it, and I did it fairly quickly. And I actually published it while my wife was in the hospital, but I self-publish, and I do it through Amazon. But when you set a deadline on Amazon, you can't change it. So it was a self-imposed deadline that I had to meet. I don't know. I think I was never that great of a student in school, but I was always pretty decent at writing. Like I used to write like stupid poems. I mean, I used to write raps. I mean, I wrote a lot of different things.
You're freestyling on the next one, bro.
Yeah, no, I don't have to do that. Although, if you want to laugh, my wife always said that I should do. I should have had a career in jingles, because I just come up with stuff, and if I can sing it slow enough, I can make it really funny.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, we used to do the freestyle competition, and I could probably sling it for about 12 seconds.
That's all you need.
But I was just like, I just wanted to organize my thoughts, and I was like, I don't know. I just felt like people had to know about this. So I just created an outline and wrote it from there. And what's the beauty of it is, my most recent book's only 73 pages. You can literally sit down and read it in a couple of hours. So it's not like I put together some 300-page book that nobody's ever going to read, you know?
Right.
So
what would you say was the biggest pitfall in that process?
the biggest pitfall in writing it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
You gave the advice earlier of people that have lived through experiences, have crawled their way out of stuff, have had that resilience to maybe write a book.
Yeah.
What would you say was maybe one of the biggest things that you had to get over, biggest hurdles in that process?
Well, until I gained momentum in actually writing and finishing the book, I really didn't want to write it. It wasn't that I didn't want to write it. It was I didn't want to go through the process. See, everybody wants the result, but nobody wants to do the process. And I found myself in that situation. I didn't want to do the process. I wanted the book, but I was like, do I really want to do this? Like I did that for 2 months in my head before I was like, screw it, I'm just doing it. And then when I set that self-imposed deadline, I had no choice. Because if you miss a deadline on Amazon, they penalize you, like you can't republish, like you're done. So I don't know what the ultimate penalties are.
If anybody listened to episode 8 that we just uploaded, Derek just quoted Coach Koss, do the work. No shortcuts, guys. Do the work. What was the most significant thing that you changed between book 1 and book 2?
Just think the circumstances of the country changed a little bit. A lot of the book is pretty similar. It's just the second one is written a little better, obviously, because now I have experience. So it's a little better written. For the first book, I was fired up to write it from the beginning, and the second book took me a while to get into that mode.
Okay.
Like I didn't want to do it. In fact, somebody told me that our life right now could be like a Lifetime movie or something, and I was like, I thought about writing a book on it, what we've gone through, and then it gets in my head. I'm like, do I really want to do that? Like now I'm doing it again, right? I do I really want to commit to that? Like, so I think the most, as people, I think the most difficult thing that we do as a species in a race, the most difficult thing that we can do is make a decision.
That's heavy.
Right?
That's heavy. Heck yeah.
Because a decision requires a commitment.
Mm-hmm. That's a very tricky thing to do.
I decide I am doing jiu-jitsu. I decide I am getting out of debt. I decide, you know, and it's obviously there's actions that follow that decision, but usually when you make a decision definitively in your mind, you're committed. Mm-hmm. And so getting to that decision-making process, you know, there's a whole bucket full of excuses leading up to it. And you'll either decide you want to or you don't. You want to get uncomfortable, you want to stay where you are. You know, you want to save money now, or do you want to worry about money later? Do you want to get healthy now? Here's a great one. Do you want to take an hour or two a day to exercise every day? Or do you not have time and you want 24 hours a day to be dead in 20 years? I mean, you know, it's like, you know, all the decisions have consequences, and not every consequence is bad.
Absolutely.
You know, and so, yeah. So do what you have to do now so you can do what you want later.
Yeah, that's huge. I kind of want to touch on a couple of the things that you mentioned in there, and that was a ton of awesome information. But kind of going back to the beginning of what you said, was it, and this is just more out of my own curiosity, was it like in the beginning, I think you said around 07, 08 is when you really noticed the bottom kind of fall out of the industry, but was it did it kind of ride in parallel with the .com boom, or was there another aspect of the internet craze that really kind of forced your position to the ones and zeros of the algorithms?
Yeah, so what happened with that was, and when you talk about the .com bubble, you're talking about the post Y2K. We had a recession right around the year 2000, 2001, and of course 9/11 didn't help. Me and my wife actually lived through 9/11. I was downtown Manhattan when the towers were hit.
Shit, man.
So that was a rough day. Fast forward 20 years from 9/11, 2001, we're at 9/11, 2021, and that's when wife was in the hospital, actually. And if you want to touch on that, we could touch on that. But what ended up happening was 2007, 2008 was all the government manipulation, all these mortgages for people who didn't qualify, all this speculative building, like all of this came tumbling down, right? That's what happened. It was a housing market crash, and it was collateralized mortgage obligations. Basically, what all that is people package these baskets of mortgages, and some are A+ rated, some are, you know, those interest only loans, a lot of stuff that they don't even sell anymore because of what happened. You know, the story was, you know, if you were in 2005, you could basically get a $600,000 or $700,000 home and not even have to verify your income. If you could sign your name, you could get qualified. So, I mean, you want to talk about a bubble. And then ultimately that came crashing down, and some financial institutions, big names that were around 100+ years. I'm talking Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns. They were heavily leveraged in these investments, and so that brought them down. In fact, hundreds of banks had gone under during the last recession of 2007, 2008, and the big ones got bailed out, of course. And this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of like sort of anti-Wall Street. You know, the government, it's a quasi-capitalism system now, because what the government did was the government took working people's taxpayer dollars. They went to bail out the banks. They were too big to fail, right? A lot of these banks, what they did was they didn't redistribute the right way. Like, they didn't take care of what they needed to take care of. They did pay themselves out bonuses.
Golden parachute.
Particular. Yeah, exactly. Another big thing they did was they used the funds to buy back their own stock, to artificially inflate their stock. Because when you buy back stock, you know, if you look at supply and demand, there's less shares outstanding, so the price automatically, you know, goes up. So because there's less shares on the market. So that's what was creating the market to go higher initially. And, you know, there's other issues going on now. It's a completely separate bubble that's happening as we speak. But yeah, there's a lot of manipulation going on. So it was, but at the end of the day, what brought me down, and thousands of other people that did what I do or did, was the fact, yeah, technology was slowly creeping in, and then boom, it was there. Because after 9/11, they said, we need systems in place in case, you know, we were, that day we were next on the list. They evacuated us. They said they're coming for us now. So, you know, we hightailed it out of there. And we were like, what are they going to do? Because the stock exchange, you see the building, it's got the pillars, but it's actually like downstairs a little bit. It's pretty well protected, but it doesn't stop somebody from driving a van into it, right? And, you know, we were hearing all sorts of crazy rumors when we finally went back a week later. There's 32 U-Haul vans missing from a place in Connecticut. You know, like, yeah, it was nerve-wracking at the time.
I'm sure every day just being there is probably after, at least right after that. I mean, it's probably just like you're looking over your shoulder. There's no peace of mind whatsoever in that scenario.
Yeah, and you could smell the burning for months. You come out of the subway system, and the National Guard's there practically with guns in your face. You know, I wasn't used to that at the time. And so, yeah, it was a scary and an interesting time. You know, we were blessed to get through it. But yeah, so ultimately what 9/11 triggered for the stock exchange was, we need automation. Like, we can't have a central location, because if something happens, the US economy is done. So yeah, it was like they snapped the finger, and one day everything just changed. And it was within 2 years that I was gone from there. So it was like 2005, 2006, somewhere in between there.
Right.
The hybrid market took place, and I left in January 2008.
So fast forward, catching up to where you're at now. You told me about the little break and the detriment that rubber band snapping back kind of caused your family financially. What would you say? I don't want you to give away the best parts of the book, obviously, and make sure you send me the info so we can link to it. What would you say is probably the best or most poignant piece of advice that you either got or discovered in that time period to get you to where you are now?
Well, one of the most important things that I learned as far as money's concerned is you have to constantly you have to systematically save it. Like you have to have it being saved, and the interest rate, everybody knows what kind of an interest rate environment we're in. It's pretty obvious. If mortgage rates are all-time lows, but if you don't own a home and you don't know that, you still do, because the banks pay nothing. So you're not earning any interest. So if you're not earning interest, you're losing money. What that forced a lot of people to do, like, if you went back to the 1980s, if you were a retiree, you were 65, 70 years old, you could put your savings in a CD and earn 13, 15%. Now they want to pay like 0.35. So it's a losing proposition, but people do what they do is they still, a senior citizen still might put a portion of their money in there because they're afraid to touch the money because they don't want to run out of money. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest fears for retirees, in fact, the number one fear of a retiree is not death, it's running out of money. They don't want to outlive their money. They're afraid to. So they dramatically cut their lifestyle down. It's also forced people to get into the market. And that's one of the reasons, another reason why the market has ballooned the way it does, is because interest rates are so low, mm-hmm. people have to get into the market. Otherwise, again, with inflation, even at 3%, they're losing out. And just to give you an idea,
let me ask you there real quick. I don't want to keep your train of thought, but since you brought up inflation again, and we're talking specifically about saving, the question comes to mind then, with inflation essentially being a durable goods tax on the working class, is saving still the best course of action in your opinion with the current rate of inflation, seeing what the value of our dollar is? And is crypto maybe the other side of that same equation?
So saving in a bank, no, because you're losing. If you're in a bank,
don't tell me you're putting it under the mattress, big guy.
That's actually even worse, especially if you have fire. There's no insurance on that money. But if the banks are paying you a fraction of a percent, let's just keep the numbers round. Let's say you're making 1% on your money and inflation 7%, you're losing 6%. Now, there's something like, so inflation currently is 7%, right? So, but let's just use that 6% since that's what I said. So if you are losing 6% to inflation, whatever you saved currently, if you're currently losing 6%, let's just say that stays constant, your buying power will be cut in half within 12 years. Ooh. So in other words, at 6% inflation, if you're earning 50 grand today, in 12 years, if you're still earning that same 50 grand, it's only worth 25 grand in salary. That's how much you'll be able to purchase. Mm-hmm. So my question would be, if you cut your salary in half right now, could you afford to maintain your lifestyle? And I mean, 99.99% of the people are going to say absolutely not. So there's other ways to do it. There's indexing strategies. There's safe money. I also employ something called infinite banking. And I do it through life insurance, believe it or not. It's a cash value strategy, and I do talk about it in the book. But basically, if you became your own bank by putting your money into a cash value life insurance policy, and you borrowed from yourself to, let's say, finance a car, and you paid yourself back. If I showed you a mirror image of let's say I took the life insurance policy and showed you what it would look like, what it's projected to look like in 30 years. Mm-hmm. Then I took that same policy, but I showed you borrowing, I don't know, 3 times to purchase a vehicle. So you borrowed from yourself and you paid yourself back, let's say 5 or 6 years, like a typical auto loan. Whether you borrowed the money or not, at 30 years, the cash value looks exactly the same. So it costs you nothing at the end of the day to purchase that vehicle. It takes putting some of that on paper for a lot of people to grasp. But that's basic. That's what I do. When people eliminate their debt, one of the foundations I will always do is life insurance. It's a bedrock, because even if what's beautiful about it is when you start putting that money away, let's say you freed up $700 a month. And now we start allocating that towards life insurance. What's nice is if you pass away in like month 2, your family will get probably very close to what you meant to save over the next 30 years. So they're going to get that nest egg. But if you live, and we want you to live, then you're going to create a nest egg for yourself that's free from market conditions. You know, in fact, going back to the recession, they said hundreds of banks went under, but there was only maybe 3 or 4 life insurance companies, and there were small boutique firms that went under. The big names, they've been paying dividends since the 1800s, and they've paid dividends through the Great Depression, you know, the last recession. Like they don't miss. They vary, but they don't miss their dividends. So, and one of the other perks is because typically, you know, most people, they'll save in a retirement plan like a 401k, and not realizing down the road every penny is going to be taxed. And the government knows that. They know that if they help you save pennies today when taxes are at an all-time low, they're going to get you down the road, because based on the amount of money that they're printing, based on the services, Medicare is about $33 trillion in the hole. Social Security is about $26 trillion in the hole. They say we have national debts top 30 trillion, but our unfunded liabilities on a national scale are, I think 160 trillion, somewhere around there. We're never going to close that gap. It's never going to happen. And so the government's going to have to keep raising taxes and cutting benefits, which is going to hurt our pockets. It's going to hurt the middle class. And like you mentioned earlier, inflation's a tax on the working people. Yeah, politicians chant tax billionaires and everybody gets all excited. But the fact is, inflation's a stealth tax, and it's a way to tax the poor and the middle class without ever calling it a tax.
Absolutely. And the more we print funny money, the bigger that pile gets.
Yeah, it always gets bigger. And the beauty with the life insurance is, if it's designed properly, when you get to retirement, it's a tax exempt income source. And if you have an emergency, you have access to the money. There's no IRS restrictions. There's no penalties. There's no fees. You take it from your own account. You pay it back. It would make sense to pay it back, but nobody's going to come knocking on your door if you don't. And it just gives you that flexibility. And that's why I call it a foundation. Hey, you want to have some money in the market. You want to try to grow. You want to earn a little more interest. That's fine, but you got to set that foundation. If we don't have a foundation, then our castles are being built on sand, and they will come tumbling down.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's a ton of knowledge that Derek just dropped on you guys for free. So hopefully, just for that little nugget, you'll still go out and check his book out, because that's huge, man. I've never heard of that strategy personally. So I worked for Anheuser-Busch for almost a decade. They gave us access. Okay, great. They gave us access to a financial planner. Once we hit our 7-year mark and became vested in the company. Awesome. Advised me when I purchased a vehicle to borrow against my 401k rather than going through my bank. And I was like, shit, I didn't even know I could do that. So these types of things are not common knowledge for people, man. And even now that you're telling me about this, like now I'm listening to what you're saying, taking another step back and realizing that 401k is still subject to market volatility, the same shit that you're talking about. Whereas the life insurance policy, like you said, foundational bedrock. So that's huge. It's huge. That's a big tidbit. Like I said, don't tip your whole hand, man. I want them to read the book, brother. That's no, that's awesome. So let's continue forward then a little bit. So you're now in Florida. The girls are training. Things are on the rebound. Pandemic hits. We are one of the free states in the union. Love you, Governor DeSantis. What is from your professional opinion? Obviously, everybody's got their personal opinions as far as everything goes in the last 2.5 years. But in your professional opinion, what is the biggest potential setback or the biggest mistake that you're seeing people make financially in these situations, whether it's coming off of a temporary layoff of work, transitioning out of unemployment, the pricing of the housing market? What's the biggest mistakes or shortcoming that you're seeing from people right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. One of the, I mean, that's not an easy question to answer. But what I will say is, people, housing has exploded here in the last 12 months. One of my concerns would be how many of those people that are purchasing these homes are overextending themselves. So if you're overextending yourself, where does that put you as far as your savings are concerned? What this pandemic exposed on an economic standpoint is that, let's look at it this way. We weren't a month into the pandemic and people were begging for checks from the government. What does that tell you? So what changes have we made since then to ensure that we don't have to beg the government for peanuts?
Oh shit, it's gone the other direction.
What are we doing differently? What are we doing differently?
We pulled the cart the wrong way.
So
it's gotten further into relying on mommy and daddy government to take care of us.
yeah, I agree. And I think that's going to be a huge problem down the road if people take that path. And I don't really care what somebody's political affiliation is or what their beliefs are. But if you're depending on someone for the sake of depending on them, and when I say someone, I mean the government. They'll print trillions of dollars and send you a check for 1,400 and then disperse the rest amongst their friends and partners. So again, that printing of money is causing inflation. So not only are they using our tax dollars to line our pockets, but somebody's going to have to pay for all that printing of money. So we're going to have to pay a higher tax on, and it may not be an income tax, it just may be a cost of goods, as we're seeing, but we're going to have to pay for that after they already took our tax dollars and reallocated it the way that they saw fit. So I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, we are, as a people, we the people are being robbed. So what are we going to do about it? The best thing you can do is get rid of the credit cards, pay the mortgage down. Now, pay the mortgage down if it makes sense. There's ways to do it. And I'm happy to discuss with anybody on what that course of action could be. But ultimately, what you want to be is you want to be in full control of your financial life. Okay, let's look at it this way. People are out of work for a year, 2 years. Here's a question that I ask some clients, and I want people to ponder this. If you were out of work right now and you couldn't work for the next 30 years, how would that affect your family? Okay, now I get all sorts of answers on that, but ultimately it's like, wow, I couldn't do it. And then I say, isn't that what retirement is? You're out of work for potentially 30 years. How are you going to pay for that?
Wow. Perspective, man.
Yeah, it's just a different way of looking at it, because we're taught to save, we're taught to do this, and what they preach to us, I say taxes will be higher down the road. What they always preach to us is like, well, and it still gets spit out now, I'll be in a lower tax bracket. No, you won't, because here's the deal. When that whole phrase came out in like the early 80s, I think I could be wrong. I think there was something like 32 tax brackets. Now it is like, I mean, what is it, 6? So it's like, if we're a married couple and we make 60,000 a year combined, we're going to end up in the 12% tax bracket. Now, if that same married couple is now 70 years old and retired, and they have to live on less income, and I'm just talking in today's tax rates, and let's say their income was down to 50 grand, so they took a 10% haircut. Mm-hmm. They still fall into the 12% tax bracket. So no, yeah, maybe you're paying a little bit less on the 12% because it's a progressive tax system, but at the end of the day, you're still ending up in the same tax bracket. Right. So chances of you being in a lower tax bracket, not really likely. And what the life insurance does, it takes that tax risk off the table.
It makes a tremendous amount of sense. So that is a lot of information for people to digest in terms of just from where we were to where we're at now. So what is the best advice, keeping it going chronologically, that you would be able to give a client or a curious personality going forward from here? What's the best strategy, the best way to hedge your bets? Maybe we're talking to somebody just getting into the workforce, somebody getting back into working full time. What's the best way to protect yourself and your family going forward, assuming you're starting pandemic zero?
Okay. Yeah. So if I'm a new family starting out, and I never have a one size fits all approach.
Absolutely. Every situation is different, but
yeah,
that's for everybody. Okay. Don't go like starting a religion based on what we're saying here. We're just talking. So
yeah,
talk to Derek if you want specific
it's just a conversation.
Absolutely.
Well, let's just say
we do not give
chatting with
financial
a
advice.
particular family. Right. So let's just say I'm going to pretend I'm going over a particular situation. What I would tell a young family, what I would suggest, I don't tell anybody anything. I give them options, right?
Absolutely.
Don't stay away from the credit cards. They're going to get you in trouble. I learned that lesson the hard way when I was really young, when I got a Sears card when I was like 18. And I bought a video camera with it. My mother said, "You're going to pay for that twice." I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, I probably paid for it 3 times.
Sure.
So you keep the credit cards at bay. If you feel like you're not earning enough income, try to negotiate. Try to negotiate your salary. Find something similar that's going to pay a little more, or try to build something. I'd say write a book. It pays okay. I'm not making a world of a difference in my household with the book. It's more of like a fancy business card for me. But I mean, my clients and people that read it get a ton of value at it. But hey, who knows? You could be the next, could write the next Harry Potter for all I know. So I don't want to, if you got that in you, I'm not deterring you. I always, like I tell my kids, if you got a dream, you got to follow it, and you never know. You might get lucky and make a ton of money doing it. But stay the course. There's some things, that you can do. If you feel like you're not earning enough money, oftentimes it may be because you're possibly living a little bit beyond your means. Mm-hmm. If you're maybe bought a 4-bedroom home and you're really tight every month, maybe you should have been in a 3-bedroom. If you're in the Tampa area, maybe it's a good time to sell, assuming you didn't buy in the last 12 months. But then again, you still got to buy something at this point, right? So it's that's a little bit tough, but I would definitely stay away from the debt, and just build that foundation. If you got a family to protect, you got to get life insurance. It's a non-negotiable, and it's become and even possibly disability insurance. Because why I say it's a non-negotiable is because I went through it, right? So September 11th, 2001, I thought I almost lost my wife, my girlfriend at the time. Well, September 11th, 2021, she was admitted to the hospital. We had gotten COVID, and she got hit really hard. And I don't know what caused her to go downhill the way she did. But September 23rd, I got a call and they were putting her on a ventilator. And September 24th, she was on the ventilator. She was on the ECMO machine, which ECMO machine, as my understanding, was typically used for heart patients because it circulates the blood. It exchanges the carbon dioxide and the oxygen. I'm telling you, I learned so much about this. I was like, maybe I should just go be a nurse now. But when I had talked to the doctor, the surgeon, when she got that ECMO machine hooked up on September 24th, and he basically told me flat out, she's got a 30% chance of making it. Like, she had 0% lung function. She got hit really hard.
So would you, and I know you've got a tertiary understanding of this as you're learning it about your wife, but was there, and this is all hearsay for me, obviously I'm not a trained physician, either, but I know that there was a lot of correlation between negative effects in the ventilators. Was there any reason to believe that there may have been a cause for your wife's condition to decrease because of the ventilators, or any of that kind of stuff, or any reason to believe that?
No, she went on a ventilator after she had 0% lung function. Okay. So
and you said this was September 21, correct? Not 20? Yeah,
September 23rd, September 24th. she went downhill prior to the ventilator. Now,
Okay.
I don't know what they were doing as far as treatment. I don't know where they screwed up. You know, we have our little Monday morning quarterback conversations, but you know, and like I said, we'll probably never have the answer. And quite frankly, I just, at the end of the day, these doctors, they don't know they don't know how to handle this, quite frankly.
So I will say that just because you're taking a quick sip there. I have this thing, and I spoke to my fiance Tracy about this before. But think about any profession, right? Any job, ditch digger. There's gonna be a top of the class, and there's gonna be the shitty guy that picked his nose the whole time. Just because you're a physician doesn't necessarily mean you know exactly what's going on. Every single graduating class of MD, PhD, of whatever doctorate they decided to pursue, every graduating class has a last ranked student, right? So even if we take the law of averages, right, 51% of those people, 49% of those people are going to be below average. There's only a few that are exceptional or above average. So it's fair to consider that when we talk generally about this stuff. Go ahead and continue, brother.
Yeah, so when that happened, obviously I was distraught. The family was distraught. We had a lot going on. What I needed to do is stay completely faithful. I had to hold it together for my kids. You know, my oldest was going on 15 years old. I have a 13-year-old and I have an 8-year-old.
Was this the first time any of you had gotten sick in the pandemic, or had it been in the house before?
Yeah, that we know of. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, there's a chance that, you know, we got sick and then get sick.
Sure.
I mean, that seems to happen quite often.
Absolutely.
So, what Erin ended up getting really bad pneumonia from is what happened, and there's a whole chain of circumstances. But what I wanted to get to was, while I had to remain completely faithful, I also had to prepare for the worst. Like, what happens if? So I had to make sure I was reviewing my life insurance that I had on her. I was also something else that we need to take care of, and that's a will. Because what prompted me to take care of the will, I was like, I'm driving back to the hospital, driving back and forth every day, and I'm like, wow, what if I get into a car wreck and something happens to me? What happens to the kids? So these are all things we got to think about. You know, who gets the kids? And I always say, like, you have a will, whether you have one or not, because if you create a will, you get to dictate who becomes the guardians of your children, how the money gets dispersed, what happens. If you don't create your own will, well, then the state does that for you, and it may not be what you wanted. So, you know, you got to take care of that. So if I was going to give any sort of overall advice that wasn't like that could be more of a one size fits all, make sure you got the proper amount of life insurance, and make sure you got a will, because you got to have things in writing. Otherwise, everything's up in the air, and you may have family members fighting over it and what have you. So yeah, I basically, I took care of all that right away on the front end, so then I could just go back to being faithful. I had to think about the worst. I had to think the what ifs, just so I could prepare on paper and have it legally binding. But yeah, and if anybody wants to reach out to me as far as getting a will done, I have access to a company, and I can get it like ridiculously inexpensive.
Awesome.
At the end of the day, it might actually, if it's simple enough, it might
There's
only
a link
cost
on
you
the
some
bottom.
notary fees.
Click the link below. I'm going to link Derek's info for you guys. It's going to be right here on the bottom of your screen when you're watching. Just click on that, and he'll get you hooked up. That's tremendous of you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, she
importance
pulled
of this
through.
is crazy. Well, sure, that's great, but like the
She pulled through,
importance
but
is there.
she's, you know, she's in. Yeah, you know, we're very fortunate. Life's amazing. You know, my faith, spirit. She's, you know, we're in April. She's still on oxygen 24/7, but she's improving, and you know, she's sitting in the other room. And girls, most important, the girls got their mom back, because they weren't sure for a while.
Yeah, that's
so
it's tremendous, man. It's tremendous.
One of the things, you know, I'm going to say this because it's without question absolutely true. My girls continued to train at Gracie Palm Harbor during the entire time my wife was sick. I continued to train. it was our meditation. It was our peace of mind. It was the family we could turn to. And I really think that's the thing that held us together and kept us sane was training and being in that gym.
You have to have
Without
the
question.
outlet. You have to, especially when,
You do.
and not that I'm not saying this in any way to point at the missus, because obviously it's not on her, but when
Mhm.
part of the stressor is at home,
Yeah.
even if it's at the hospital, you know what I'm talking about, your family life.
Yeah.
Taking the girls and being able to have something to be together, but outside of that is huge. And I'm so happy that you guys had that to rely on to help you through the process, because I'm not going to pretend I know what would
really
happen, but it's crazy. It's crazy. It's nuts that you guys had to deal with it. And it's awesome that you came through it.
Yeah. And when I said earlier that it's a family, it really is, because they came through in such a big way. I mean, we would have, it was for a period of time, we were having meals prepped and ordered for us 7 days a week, and they continued for, a couple of days a week for quite some time. And, I had basically my oldest works there now. And my wife had gotten transferred to Gainesville because she was actually a transplant candidate. I was driving to Gainesville back and forth during the week. And what I was doing was I would have the girls picked up from school, brought right to jiu-jitsu. And then I would get there at 6 o'clock. If we didn't have a meal, I'd, make them something real quick, show up there. I would do adults class and they would do their homework. And we had a system down. And you're right. You're out of the house. You're around people that you know, like, and trust and get along with. And, the joke was, it's hard for me to think about all my problems when somebody's trying to strangle me. That's the truth. Like, you don't think about anything else. So it was a ironically peaceful time to be grappling with people.
Absolutely.
A peace of mind, if anything.
Those outlets, and you guys that follow the channel hear me say this all the time. I'm gonna get on my soapbox just for a little second here, but those outlets are tremendous. You mentioned the word meditation. So we have deliberate meditation and we have passive meditation. Some of you like to go for those peaceful, quiet walks in the park, or just go sit at the beach and listen to the waves. You're meditating. You're doing the same thing. When we get into that flow state, when we're rolling, when we're doing our jiu-jitsu, when we're able to put the conscious mind to the back and just be in the moment, that's all meditation. We're all doing the meditation. What that does is allow us to create a space, a gap between what we perceive as these issues and problems and our sense of being. And it often brings a lot of perspective. And that sense of community that you mentioned is irreplaceable. That's exactly what we're building here. These videos, talking to each other, getting to know each other, sending each other business, helping each other out. This is all we're about. And I encourage you guys to do the same in your local areas. Find people of a like mind that are virtuous, altruistic, that you would trust with your kids, and say, hey, what do you got going on? Here's what I got going on. How can we help each other? The buildup of that community, it doesn't have to necessarily be financial, right? I'm not walking around giving out $100 bills everywhere. We all have to take care of our own tent first, and then we can help the village with their tents, right? But that grasp of community, I mean, you guys heard it from Derek right here. It's so much important that it literally helped save his family. Like that's incredible to hear that. Like, unfortunate circumstances, but it's incredible to hear that it was there and available for you guys. And it sounds like without even any kind of hesitation. Like that's what your extended family is for. That's why we do what we do outside of learning how to choke people.
Yeah. I really feel like it saved us as a family. If we were just sitting around feeling sorry for ourselves, that would have been a big problem.
Absolutely. And in that meditation, so whether your thing is rear naked chokes and arm bars, or your thing is sitting in a yurt and smoking some ayahuasca, whatever your thing is, that sense of meditation, that separation from the anxiety and the sense of ego is really going to help you gain that perspective and that sense of calm to take concise and cogent action to get yourself hopefully out of that trouble and not deeper into it. So, dude, that's all tremendous. I want to shift
Yeah.
gears just a little bit, just because it's topical, and you really know your stuff.
Sure.
And let me know if we're getting tight on time. Ukraine, Russia, right? Super big topic, depending on what channels you watch. But the big thing that we all kind of know is going on is energy is a big deal right now, right? The US brings in a tremendous amount of fertilizer, oil. Russia is not without its supply chain to the US and most of Europe. So again, I kind of touching on the dollar that we were talking about before. We already mentioned inflation. What do you see, and this isn't, fortune telling, just on your opinion, what do you see potentially as some either positives or negatives involved with the possibility of the US dollar no longer being the title currency for trading oil?
Yeah. So that's an interesting topic, because back in the 1970s, when the dollar through the Nixon administration took us off the gold standard, the dollar wasn't backed by anything. So if you know anything about that,
funny money.
Basically what happened was, yeah. So basically what happened was the United States had essentially gone to Saudi Arabia and said, hey, listen, we'll give you protection. Sounds kind of mafia-ish, but we'll offer you guys protection from foreign governments.
Pause real quick. That is literally the quote. Under that administration, the dollar went from being backed by gold to backed by bullets.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And so the trade-off was, if we were going to offer military protection for Saudi Arabia, the entire world would have to buy their oil in US dollars. So everything had to go through the US dollar. Everything had to be converted. Well, that can be changing real soon. Where there's a potential that they might use the Chinese currency. The world's changing really fast. Russia said they have to buy their oil in rubles, but I don't think anybody cares about that at this point.
No, it's easy enough. Even if you transfer it through blockchain, it's super easy to go to the ruble.
Yeah.
Getting anybody to take the ruble after that fact is a little bit more difficult, but going to the ruble is not that difficult.
So there's a select group of countries that can do it with relative ease. What I think on the positive side, what it's going to do, it's going to force the current administration to reverse course on some things, and we were actually having some energy independence for a short period. For the first time in God knows how many decades. And now we're back to buying oil from countries that hate us. So I think they're going to have to reverse course a little bit just to drive the cost of the price of the pump down a little bit. I don't know how much it'll drive it down. Maybe $1, but we're still $1 and change over where we were. But so I'll take that as a positive. If they have to reverse course and do that, that's a positive. The negative is obviously the instability that the whole situation's creating. I'm not even talking about the humanitarian crisis and all the tragedy that's going on. I'm strictly, from an economic standpoint.
Absolutely.
Instability is, the markets don't like it. They don't like uncertainty. And people are going to start living in fear. There's countries very close to Russia's borders that are fearful that war might take the next step. Will they use more powerful weapons? Will they invade different borders? Nobody really knows. And for another country to get involved, there's a reason why there's not a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and because, like they said, that's World War III, right?
It's a declaration of war. Yes.
Why Russia went into the Ukraine? Why? I don't know the history. I don't really know the truth behind it. There's theories. The whole thing's a complete tragedy, but it's definitely creating a lot of instability around the globe, and it's also going to embolden other foreign nations that are adversarial to us and other allies, and that can create a potentially bigger problem. There's other you know, it's like moving, it's like chess, right? It's
Yeah.
like the whole world's playing chess.
Pieces everywhere.
You know,
It's
Russia
hard
moves
to
here, this country
ignore.
moves here.
Sure, and it's hard to ignore things like shutting down fracking, killing the Keystone pipeline, and then ended up in a situation like this.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
It's a huge problem. And like you said, there's lots of things to be worrisome over, but you mentioned maybe having to take back some of the positions as far as the administration goes. I hope you're right. I really do, because I'm not, and I will never advocate for war. Anybody that does, in my opinion, has never considered the value of life. But I can say definitively that if you're a student of history, any country that's gone off the dollar has been blown the fuck up. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, I mean, we
unequivocally.
I mean,
it sucks to say, but it's what it is.
If they're not part of the International Monetary Fund. So, like, you take a country like Iraq, that's exactly what happened in 2003. He was accepting the euros for his oil, Saddam Hussein. I think that's the real reason we went in there. Then you had another
about, bro. There was
WMDs. Yeah. The Iraq was the best thing to keep Iran away. You know, keep them quiet. Sure. And we kind of ruined that. And then they took out Gaddafi in Libya, and you know, Gaddafi gave up his nukes, but they took him out because, you know, he wasn't part of that system. So yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. We only, as our country, we tend to only go to war with countries that aren't in U.S. dollars. That's for sure.
So that's the part, and I'm not.
So
pushing,
when they said we went to Iraq for oil,
it's half true. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's the scary part for me, seeing that what's happened economically in our history. That's the scary part for me, because like you said, it doesn't have to be troops on the ground. A no-fly zone, essentially. The first time you shoot down a plane, we're at war, dude. So that's the part that gets a little worrisome for me. But it's obviously we're just talking and speculating here. We're not, you know, neither of us are ambassadors to the UN, but it's an interesting thing.
I'm not educated on this subject. These are just my little viewpoints.
Absolutely.
And they probably I know nothing. You know, this is
know nothing.
My thought process.
For sure. It's a really interesting thought experiment, to say the least. But we can kind of put that on pause for the very moment. But just kind of getting back into Derek the Man, while I still got you for a few here. What is so? And I definitely appreciate all your advice on the financial spot, but let's kind of shift gears a little bit more here.
Of course,
how long total have you been training in Jiu Jitsu?
I've been training, what are we in? April? So April. So I've been training a total of 2 years and 8 months.
Awesome. So in that time, how many competitions have you been in?
I entered my first one 5 months in, which ironically was just as the pandemic was hitting. So obviously there was a little window there. So 1, 2, 3. I've been in 5 competitions.
That's tremendous, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. In less than 3 years, and that's awesome. Did you do any type of athletic competition before?
I wrestled in high school.
Okay. So the nerve thing wasn't as big of a hill for you.
When I was hitting well, it's been long enough. I mean, I'm 47. I was 44 when I started training. I was 45 when I did my first jiu-jitsu tournament. We were 5 months into training, and I will tell you that as I was standing there awaiting my turn, I mean, my kids were there, and probably the only thing that stopped me from doing this, but I was looking around saying, who the heck would notice if I just left? I was that nervous.
That's awesome. But you still went out.
Nobody don't even know I'm gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, I got my butt kicked, and you know what? The butt kicking wasn't as bad as I put out in my head. It's always worse in our minds.
It's always worse. Always, every single time.
Yeah.
Well, and I asked because, so you're what, blue belt?
I'm a blue belt.
Okay. And I know it's mostly no-gi, so that's less important, but just curious. For the amount of times that you and I, because I try to roll with you at least once a week when I come, but sometimes I'll miss you. More than likely, we usually get at least one
we've
roll
been
in.
kind of on it. Yeah, it's been almost every week.
Yeah, fairly consistent because of the fact that you're not timid. You like to roll. You're strong. You're athletic. It's fun. It's a good roll. I have a good time with it. It's not an easy roll, but it's fun. That's not something that translates very easily for everybody, especially people in your own age bracket. Now, obviously, wrestling kind of gave you, like you mentioned before, with the financial stuff, a little bit better of a foundation. But if you could, kind of getting back to the advice part, give anybody, a 45-year-old male, maybe coming out for the very first time and looking to get into something, whether it's for self-defense or competition, what advice would you maybe give somebody in that scenario that's kind of seeing, other dudes sweaty balls and dude number one's face and being like, I don't know if that's for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And when it comes, by the way, when it does come to competition, when we enrolled, I didn't even know competitions were a thing. So
Okay.
I was just doing it to do it. But what I would say is just, be a student. Let people know. One of the biggest things that helped me along the way was letting people know, hey, listen, I've only been doing this a month, and anybody with any sort of experience is going to work with you, assuming they're a good person, of course.
Right.
Like I rolled with, as a newbie, obviously blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, black belts, and they all were very, very coaching, right? So they'd let me work, the 1.5 moves that I knew. By the way, I'm a blue belt, so now I know 4 moves. But
as long as you know them really well.
They let you work. They give you that little window of opportunity. If you don't take it, then they go to work and they make you play defense. And I would just say, stay humble. Don't be afraid to tap. Don't be a hero. And just go have fun. When I was first starting, like I mentioned, I'm an introvert. I really am, because I don't do it so much now. But my first year and a half, definitely, when I'd see a guest or somebody new come in the gym, like, oh, who's that? Are they good? Yeah, you too, right?
No,
like,
it's just me. I mean, me coming into the gym and you trying to beat me up.
Yeah, well, it was the other way around. I used to be like, I don't know if I should roll them. I should watch them.
Right.
Now I kind of like, I welcome the meeting new people, and I like getting different looks, and because like when you first started coming in, you grapple completely different than the typical people I roll.
You're a jiu-jitsu guy now. You literally go from I don't know that guy to a new role. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. That's it. So, literally, like, I've never rolled you before. Come here.
Yeah. So I mean, I tell new people in the gym all the time, when if they roll me, I beat them up, not a lot. You just do, and they're like, I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, just, you did that good. And what I tell everybody is like, hey, you're gonna get beat up for like 6 months. It won't be that bad. You'll learn from it. Just practice defense. You're gonna get to know a lot of people. You're gonna create new friends. New family even at times. So, it's a great experience. If you're somebody like me and you haven't really done any, in your 40s, I'm saying even 50. I know people that started in their 50s. Maybe you're not in the best shape. I know people that started jiu-jitsu and, a year and a half later, they lost 80 pounds. So they take that initiative. So they're using jiu-jitsu as a platform to get healthy.
Absolutely.
And they learn how to defend themselves along the process. So there's so many benefits from it. It's crazy because, you start thinking about your nutrition more, your cardiovascular more, which, gets, comes more to the forefront as we get into our 40s, right? You start thinking about that stuff more. It becomes more important because, you have to be more conscious of it. And so, yeah, you're training and you don't want to feel like you're going to get sick every time. So you start to eat better and you start to exercise more. And, the jujitsu cardio alone is probably second to none, especially early when you're trying to use all your energy, but yeah, I mean, I'm the most flexible I've ever been.
That's awesome.
And I've got injuries from weightlifting and stuff, and I'm always in a little bit of pain from that, but I have full flexibility in my shoulders where there were points where I go here and it would hurt, like agony. And now it's, I can do things, and it's just because you're working on it. And so you become more in tune with yourself, both physically and mentally. So I've also developed an inner calmness. My wife's not listening, but my road rage has gone down quite considerably. I'm calmer.
You're touching my heart right
now.
But
yeah, what I'm saying is, like my heart rate's lower. I'm calmer under other circumstances, because what it also teaches you to do is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And Absolutely. I think that's important.
Fortitude in adversity is the way I like to put it. And it's irreplaceable. You, just from talking with you and getting to know a little bit more of your history, and again, I really appreciate you making time to be on, brother. It's awesome, and you've got a lot to share.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The benefits that most people get after starting jiu-jitsu, from talking to you, you were fortunate enough to have some of that already as part of your foundation. Meaning, what you shared with me about the financial setbacks you guys had, and the fact that, you didn't tuck your tail and just admit defeat and go belly up and start looking for handouts. You adapted and figured out how to win the situation. That is one of the biggest benefits that most people get from their jiu-jitsu training. It's awesome that you had a little bit of that beforehand, and I'm sure it was reinforced by the training in jiu-jitsu. But that's the biggest thing that I can usually help people with, or teach or bestow upon people. If you have Derek smashing your face for 6 minutes, Jenny at the coffee machine that took the last cup and didn't make a new pot is not a big deal anymore. Like, I promise you, it's not a big deal. It's not. It's not. It's just not. So
yeah, you're right.
You were fortunate enough to have been humbled by life and have gone through your adversity, and knowing that you have a little bit of
quite a few times.
Resilience to you. But a lot of people have to learn that, and that's a big learning curve for a bunch of people. So it sucks situationally, but you're fortunate enough that at least you have that ingrained resilience. The transition to really falling in love with jiu-jitsu probably didn't take you very long. Sometimes I'll see people, it might take them a year before they really start getting into it, because they're just getting their ass kicked and they don't know how to deal with that constant adversity.
It could be rough.
It's super
but again,
rough.
It's always and people get, their minds might wander the wrong way. Like, I'm always the first one to say, when we went through our financial thing, at first, it's something that was like really embarrassing for us. Like, it was very taboo to talk about. It was like you want to hide. And I said, how can I turn this around? Like, I want to turn around for us, but I also want to turn it around and say, hey, I've been there, right? So I've been there. So I understand what you're going through, and it may be worse, and it may be not even close to, but for you, not you, for you, whoever you might be, it might feel overwhelming. Like, wow, I'm literally dishing out $400 a month in credit cards. I have no idea how the heck I'm getting out of this. I'm telling you right now, I can map out a plan for you. And by the way, if you got credit card debt, I will, for anybody, and I literally do this for anybody that I work with. I devise an entire plan. I do not charge for it. The only thing I ask for is when it comes time to execute things, that you do it through me. Don't go behind my back. That's literally all I ask for. But by the time we're talking, it's almost like, you get to know each other and stuff. It's just like, there's just a connection there. But yeah, no, if you got, let's say somebody has 3 credit cards or 5 credit cards or 7 credit cards, I can rearrange those so that you're paying them down more efficiently. And we could probably find a few bucks here and there that you're not even thinking of. And heck, we can get those things paid off years sooner without taking any money out of your pocket. and save you thousands in interest. Like, it's possible. And yeah, I build these plans. I don't charge for them. I just do them. And then when it comes time to execute, so if I feel like you need a little extra life insurance, or you don't have any at all, or, when it comes time to save, all I ask is, hey, just work with me. Like, that's how I get paid, right? So, but I don't charge a fee to create the plan.
That's an incredible service. You guys make sure you're taking advantages. Derek is giving you the benefit of his knowledge, not charging for the service. Make sure you take advantage of this. Check out the book. Check out Derek on social. Check him out. Hopefully on YouTube soon, doing some financial advice videos for everybody. But I'll definitely have all the links.
I'm gonna get back into swing things. Now that the missus is getting better, I have like bigger windows to create content. I just ended up uploading them all to YouTube. So a lot of the videos are literally only like 2 minutes.
That's all good.
So, but they're short and sweet. And I talk about everything. I talk about, what's an IRA, what's a stock, what's a bond, what's a corporate bond, what's a municipal bond. Like, I literally go through the gauntlet. And I have about, I don't know, 65, 70 videos on there.
That's awesome. That sounds like a tremendous value.
Yeah, it's like I said though, I haven't been on there in a long time. I want to fire it back up again.
Hey, priorities, man. You're taking care of your family. It's all good.
Yeah, I know.
YouTube will fucking be there when you get back.
I got to get out of obscurity.
Yeah, it's all good. Collaborate. Let me know. I said, if you ever want to collabo, let me know. I love this stuff, man.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, last question. And this is kind of going back to the jiu-jitsu stuff. And this is for me as a coach, okay? Being at the level you're at as a competitive athlete, what is the most influential / biggest bedrock that you've gotten from your coach that's helped you along in competition? Not talking about a specific move or move set or sequence, but what's the biggest thing what's the biggest bane your coach has given you for other opponents or your own mind to defeat that ego beast and go out and perform?
Yeah. Wow. One thing, and my coach is Tony White.
Absolute savage. I'll co-sign on that all day.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that he's a master of is, I want to say, like, he's very calm, when he's coaching me and, I'm in a situation, he's very calm, and because he's calm, I'm calm. I'm not, he's not yelling out, and he's really just taught me to not the moves themselves, but just the way of executing it, and executing the actual move, and executing in a way that is systematic rather than emotional. Like, I say emotional because you're like, you're nervous and you're this, and you want to grab, you want to, or you get angry. It's just that I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, actually. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Basically, yeah. So it's just like, I'll give you a quick example. So in the last tournament, the guy had taken me down. He ended up in like my knee shield. I don't even know what. See, I'm a blue belt, so I don't know what a lot of the defenses are called. I'll do them without realizing what they're called.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I was in like a Z guard or something, but basically Tony was there in the corner. I'm down 2-0. He's like, "All right, Derek, you're fine. You're down 2-0. No big deal. You got plenty of time." Which brought, he made me feel like I was back in the gym, not in a competition. And that helps me relax, right? So he's very good at putting you at ease while teaching you and showing you how to use the tools that he knows to be the best that I could be.
That's awesome, man.
And I don't know if I did him justice by saying it like that, but
it's awesome. Listen, you're translating it as best you can for non-grapplers.
Yeah,
I get everything you're saying. There is a presence to the movements that exceeds the technical aspect of put your knee here, grab the arm here, extend here. I fully understand what you're saying. And through his guidance, you've been able to find that calm in that sense of presence to be able to execute at a high clip. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Derek, I really appreciate you, man. I don't want to hold up any more of your time. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here. But before we disengage, I would love it if you go ahead and plug your social, the business, where people can get a hold of you. And like I said, there'll be links in the description, and I'll put them on the actual video.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Derek Nelson Coach, DerekNelson Coach. I post a lot of financial stuff there. I also post inspiration. So it's basically inspiration and financial. That's all I post there. My Facebook page is Polaris Financial Network. Website's PolarisFinancialNetwork.com. Anybody wants to touch base, you could text me or call me, 727-902-1083. I'm here to help. You know, whatever I could do to help. And my email, of course, Derek@PolarisFinancialNetwork.com. If there's anything I could do for anybody out there, I am happy to assist. And like I said, you know, there's no cost or obligation to have a conversation. If I can help you, I can help you. If not, if I can't for whatever reason, I'll be the first one to let you know.
It's amazing. Derek, tremendous. I appreciate your time, brother. And for everybody over at Aetherial LLC, we will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jay.
I appreciate you.